Hey everyone, it is late at night and I am Norman. I actually did it. I secured a Smiths Everest. And tonight we're going to take a close look at this brilliant watch. So let us begin. I did not purchase this watch from Time Factors, but the story of how I did acquire it is actually pretty cool. So a bit ago, I was hanging out my favorite place, eBay, looking through all of my saved searches, and I noticed there was something new listed for my Everest search. So I pulled it up, and sure enough, there was an Everest listed at a perfectly reasonable price. So I thought about it for about 30 seconds, and I clicked the button and bought it. Shortly after purchasing it, I received a message from the seller letting me know that it was going to be shipped off the next day and that he was looking forward to seeing the review of it on my YouTube channel. Now my eBay account is super old, so my email address and my username are completely different. So I'm thinking he must have recognized me from my picture. How cool is that, to actually get a Smiths Everest and to get it from somebody who I'm pretty sure is a fan of the channel? Super cool. So the eBay seller's name is Micah Monega-7. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And he's super cool, so I left a link to his store in the description below. But enough storytelling, you guys want to see this watch, so let's flip the camera around and take a look at it. So here's what the Everest ships in. Just kind of a squishy watch case. And I also received the booklet from Time Factors. The usual information. All right, let's see what's inside here. Time Factors cleaning cloth. And there it is. Ooh. The Everest. I have some extra links, always handy. Now, as you already know, or can tell by looking at the watch, this is an Explorer Homage. So that is why I'll be referencing that watch throughout this review. So when you initially get this out of the packaging, the first thing that you notice is how absolutely solid this thing is. The watch head is fairly heavy, but not too much so, just enough to make it feel like really high quality. I mean, it just feels really nice. And the bracelet feels great. It's quiet. I haven't heard any real noise from this bracelet. So let's start there and move up toward the watch. When I first started considering this watch, one of my concerns was the Rivet Bracelet. Because as many of you know, I'm not a huge bracelet fan. Most of my watches, pretty much all of them, are on leather straps, sometimes rubber straps, maybe Milanese, but not really bracelets. And so having these rivets sticking out of the side, I wasn't sure if that was going to be way too much for me. However, seeing this in person, they're actually a lot more subtle than they appear in video or in photographs. You really don't notice them at all, which is great. It's a cool little detail, and yet it's nice and subtle. As soon as I saw it, I was concerned about this buckle, and I actually hadn't read any of the complaints about it, so I was completely ignorant of that. Why didn't they go with the Trifold Clasp? So you have the safety piece that latches over here. But I figured if it's not snug enough for me, I can kind of bend the little hook on the inside there so that it's more snug. However, there isn't a whole lot of room to get to it, and I tried some tiny needle nose pliers and it just wouldn't budge. But it's nice and solid. Quality wise, it's a really great buckle, but it doesn't feel very secure. and we'll revisit this when I do the wrist shot. Honestly, this buckle is really my only beef with this watch, and it's really bad. Not only does it not seem very secure, especially when you're closing it, it just doesn't feel like it's latching very well. But if you look here, this center part doesn't line up with the center links at all. It's just not so good at all. But the bracelet is great. It's solid. It's all brushed. You can see that there's already a mark on there, but that's fine. And it just feels quality. You see that it actually folds all the way down like that, so it'll hug your wrist pretty well. Definitely kudos on that bracelet. That is just great. I like the thin lines on the edge there. Just a really cool touch. Onto the watch, it has drilled lugs, kind of a rounded case. The case back screws in, and we have the Smiths logo there, along with the reference number, the PRS 25, and the water resistance rating. And you'll see that it says Smiths Deluxe as sort of a shout out to the original Smiths that actually summited Everest. It has a screwed down crown, so we'll unscrew that. Winding it is nice and smooth. Pop this out. And it hacks. And it's nice and smooth when you're setting it. The movement there is great. And pop that back in. The threading is nice, it catches nice and easily. Looking at the top of the watch, we see that it's brushed here, and we have a polished bezel, and it's polished on the edges as well. So that will be a scratch magnet. However, this crystal is interesting. When you see it from the top and some of these angles, it looks like a box crystal, and it is, but when you look at it from the side, it is very short, which is really cool. It almost has the flat crystal look of an Explorer, but it has that really cool box crystal edge to it and kind of distorts a little bit and catches light differently. It's really cool. The indices are painted on, they aren't applied, which is kind of sad, but it differentiates it from the Explorer. I like the subtle Everest there. So it makes the dial look really clean because you don't really notice it. It has to catch the light just right. The minutes track is very prominent. However, when you're not actively analyzing it, it's a bit more subtle. The font on here is also quite a bit different from the Explorer, but it looks great. The triangle at the 12 is great. I really like the Smiths logo. It's pretty cool. It has the same Mercedes hands as the Explorer, and I'm not a huge fan of those, but I am a fan of the Explorer aesthetic, so that is perfectly fine with me. It is a really great dial. Super legible, and just looks amazing. Alright, let's charge up this Loom and take a look at it. So here is the Loom on the Everest, and that is pretty great. It holds a charge pretty well. I'm not sure exactly how long it lasts, but it's one of those looms where you'll notice it glowing, even in daylight here and there. Look at how bright that is. So legible. Alright, so let's take the space view off and I'll show you what the Everest is like on the wrist. And we'll revisit that clasp. So here's the Everest on my 7-inch wrist. That is absolutely amazing. Wearing this watch absolutely feels like you're wearing an Explorer. And there is something magical about this watch because even though it doesn't have the name, the brand name that the Explorer has, it still feels like you're wearing a rock star on your wrist. So I have it sized to where it's fairly snug, but not overly so. So if my wrist is swollen, it feels just right, but when it's cold out, it's not too loose either. Now, the problems with this clasp manifested within minutes of me first putting this watch on. When I went to stand up, I used my hand to kind of push myself up, and this bracelet popped. It popped open twice within 15 minutes of me putting this watch on. And in fact, if you do this, it pops open just by bending the wrist like that. That is absolutely terrible. What in the world? I'm sorry, but this clasp is absolute garbage. So after that happened, I got online and I tracked down a Straps Co. that is sterile, so I won't have the Smiths there, which is sad, but the entire buckle is brushed, and the centerpiece should line up with my center links, and I believe it will fit. So this is a 16 millimeter buckle, and it has 8 millimeter center links, at least down here by the buckle, and the space in the photographs for that clasp look about right. We will find out when it arrives, hopefully this Friday. And I'll show you guys this watch with that clasp on because that's really the only downside to this watch. Everything else about it is absolutely brilliant. As for the specifications on this watch, the case size is 36 millimeters, the lug width is 20 millimeters, the lug to lug is 43.5 millimeters, the case height is 11.3 millimeters, it has 100 meters of water resistance, it has a sapphire crystal, the loom on this is Super Luminova, so that explains why it's so amazing. The movement inside this is a Miyota 9039. It has 24 jewels, it's automatic, and it beats at 28.8. This watch retails for $450 US, so please bear that in mind when you see flippers asking for $1,200 on eBay. Don't do it. So there you have it, the Smiths Everest. And this watch is even cooler than I thought it would be. There is something magical about this watch. It absolutely nails the spirit of the Rolex Explorer. It's pretty amazing. Thanks for watching.